Yes.
Is that us, Andrew? Are we back? I'm not seeing anything, but there you are. I'm seeing it now. It's Destination Newry. It's the morning program. I'm Rowan Hand, and this is Roger Jarvis, who's been an icon of my home for as long as I can remember, because he has taught my daughter music, Anne-Marie, the violin in it was the South Ulster Youth Orchestra,
Yes,
I believe.
yes.
And you've been a devotee of that cause for as long as you can remember, I'd say.
Yes, it was 1971 when I moved to County Armagh and began that kind of activity. So
Goodness gracious.
I didn't stay with them all that time in my career, but nevertheless, it's been a close part of it, you know.
Yeah, so the orchestra that you now have responsibilities with is the Ulster.
It's called the South Ulster Sinfonia.
The South Ulster Sinfonia. What a lovely name. It's got a
Well,
ring to it of itself. There's a musicality in it.
We use the word South Ulster because we have a link with the Southern Education Library Board's music service,
Yes.
an informal link really. And all of their orchestras since the formation of the Southern Board were called the South Ulster something. So we retained it that way around.
The sort of music I should know, but Anne-Marie's she's had her own life and married in a way, and I don't hear as much. But isn't it lovely that her son Michael is now a most amazingly talented musician? And that all started, I like to think in some sense, not that I was musical, I wasn't, but the pebble I threw onto the pond all those years ago in encouraging Anne-Marie has found its way through to her son, who's now an organist with the local church here.
Oh, right.
And he's the leader. He's very, very, very musical. It's frightening how musical the fellow is.
Yeah.
But the kind of things you specialize in the Sinfonia, what is it? What are they?
Well, we play any kind of music, really. I mean, we play for our own pleasure in the sense that we don't start off by saying, here's a body of classical music or whatever. We've got to be good enough to play that. We start by saying, what do we like and what will people enjoy who come and want to play it every week or every fortnight. So there's a mixture of things. I mean, there's music from shows. At the concert we'll be doing, for example, some music from Titanic, some music from Disney films. We do classics. I mean, I sometimes describe our repertoire as consisting of classic pops and popular classics. So, I mean, we're doing, for example, Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 by Bach, which is a well-known classical piece, although a lot of people who don't know the name will recognize it from commercials. I mean, the Audi adverts about 15 years ago used it. Yeah. So people know a lot of classical music without necessarily knowing what it's called, and quite a lot of that is in the repertoire too.
The classical music which is taken and tortured into adverts. I suppose there's two lines of thinking on that. Isn't it great that we're using classical music and that it's been exposed to a wider and different audience, perhaps?
Yes.
And then on the other hand,
it's
kind of almost sacrilegious.
Well, I don't know. I think that it's like anything else, that it has a deeper side to it. And if you're a classical musician, the penetration that you have into a piece is deeper than most people have. And if you like a tune, you like it. You can't help it. I mean, it's an emotion. You like it. You're not guilty or anything because you like it. And if it happens to be a classical tune, why shouldn't you like it? And why shouldn't you do what you want with it, you know?
Well, great things are happening in the concert that's coming. There are two concerts that are coming, north and south of the border. The first on the 10th of May in the Sean Hollywood Arts Centre. And it's part of a collaborative project with folk on the other side of the border, or with a location on the other side of the border. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, it basically the orchestra draws its members from a fairly wide area, and it happens that at the moment a couple of players travel in from Carrickmacross, Castle Blaney area, and that's the area the choir is based in. They knew about the choir, and when we were talking about proposals for concerts, the idea of sharing with the group from across the border seemed to be a good idea. So it really grew from that. I suppose the fact that we're coming from both sides of the border has led to a kind of a title for the concert, which is called North and South in Harmony. But
I'll drink to that. I think it's a great idea. Yeah. It seems to be the flavour of the moment as well. We think about Her Majesty and the President of Ireland. It's all good there. You mentioned choir.
Yes.
I thought it was orchestral and not choral.
No, the orchestra is the group that I conduct that meets here in the north, but
Yes.
the group that's coming from the south is a choir.
Choir. So there's an amalgamation there.
They have their own program,
Yeah.
and we have ours, but we are doing a couple of pieces that I've arranged for the two groups to perform together.
Yes.
So,
Yes. And then you will go to Monaghan to do it.
yes, we repeat the concert basically in Monaghan.
Yeah. And it's exciting because it's new. We have the Cross Border Youth Orchestra, and that's been going
Yes.
for a long time.
Yeah.
But with a group, if you like, of musically consenting adults who want to go there, who
That's
want to
right.
come north
Yes.
and get involved in the north,
Yeah.
and who want to go south and get involved there, that's a nice bit of collaboration.
Yes, yes. It's the first time we've tried it. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how rare it is generally, but
I don't think it happens that much. I don't think it happens that often. So the program for the concert will be what? What might we expect?
well, I mentioned the Brandenburg Concerto. We're doing some arrangements of piano pieces by Debussy, which I've made. One is the Girl with Flaxen Hair, which is quite a well-known one, and the other's called the Gollywog's Cakewalk, from Children's Corner Suite. I mentioned music from films, Titanic, and from some Disney films. We're doing a violin concerto by Vivaldi. One of the things that the Southern Board do for us is that they allot one of their tutors to give us a hand. And Bridget Walton is one of the senior string tutors there, and she works with us each time as a kind of a string coach, which is absolutely marvellous.
Yes.
But she's going to play a concerto, so...
Fantastic.
And again, it's one of those pieces that people will think, oh, I know that, when they hear
Yeah,
it,
well,
even if they
yeah,
don't
before.
think they know
Yeah.
it.
Your choir, what will they be offering us?
They're offering a similar variety of stuff. There are what you might call popular songs, I suppose. In fact, one is the first pop song I can remember, first top of the pops I can remember. I said I can remember. I can't think what it's called.
No, it's only as
It's called
important.
Mambo Italiana.
Oh, Mambo Italiana.
Yeah, it came out-
Mambo Italiana.
Yeah. Hey, Mum,
Mambo Italiana.
Came out about 1955,
yeah,
I think.
it
I mean,
did,
when
it
I
did.
was, I don't know, 12.
There's another one you would remember, and we had the lady who sang it at the time. Aiko Aiko. That one was again a popular one.
Yes.
Aiko 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 eh. Blah 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 blah. But anyway, she was in with us with Tom Newman, who produced the Tubular Bells. would
Oh,
you
right,
believe?
yes.
Tom was Branston's right. He actually produced Tubular Bells with Mike Oldfield, and then he founded Virgin Records with Richard, and then they went their separate
Yeah,
ways.
yeah.
Unfortunately, from Tom's point of view, after that, you see. But they were lovely, lovely people who seem to be involved in music. When did your own journey into music begin, and how did it begin? Certainly, your accent
My
is not
person-
it's
no,
not
that's
an Armagh
right.
accent.
No, I was brought up in Essex, and I suppose my journey into music wasn't very ostentatious. I mean, my mother would have sung at church services from time to time. She would have taken me to local performances of Handel's Messiah or that sort of thing when I was quite small. I had an opportunity to do music as an O-level subject at school, which was what preceded GCSE. I'm sure you remember that.
I do, I do.
And eventually took it to advanced level and then trained as a musician. So it was a gradual introduction from nothing very extensive as a child, but
Yeah. But you've been doing in your professional life the thing you love.
Yes,
And that's
yes.
an important thing. But also, it might be said that those who are in acting or in music, they're not constantly earning. It can be fiscally precarious. But I mean, you were lucky enough because it was kind to you.
yes, I think that's right. I mean, I started off as a student doing a bit of teaching, and when I finished my training, I decided I'd had enough contacts with sort of freelance teaching to carry on as a freelance person and try and get a few more. And so for the first year or two, I was in that, as you say, precarious position. But eventually I got a job which had a salary and you paid into a pension. So from that point onwards, I suppose it became more secure, you know. But I mean, in those days, it was a bit, I think it was quite bold. My son is a freelance musician, but he expected to do that from the beginning, and he's made a lot of money at it. And I think he probably expected that as well. You know, I mean, these days it's not quite so. I mean, it is precarious, but it's not quite so unusual.
You have seen the growing into music of many, many, many young people in this part of the world. I'm just wondering about nurture and nature.
Aye.
Where does it come from?
Yeah.
Is it the case that one person will have an innate musicality and ability to become involved, or is it not the case? Is everyone capable of doing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think both points of view, if I can call them that, have truth in them. I'm sure there are people whose musical capacity is much nearer the surface than it is with others. But it is also true that everybody has musical capacity of some kind, musical capability. I think one of the interesting things I've discovered in my lifetime really in music and education is that in effect, most of the things probably all of the things that we would talk about when we talk about musical ability, because really there are a lot of things, not one thing, musical ability, it's all kinds of skills. But they're all skills that everybody uses all the time. For example, I mean, I have a friend who would say he was tone deaf. And if you stand next to him in church, you'd agree with him. But if you walk home with him after church, he's whistling the last music quite tunefully.
Yes,
so it's not deafness that's his problem, it's control of the vocal cords. Now, when you sing in tune, you're using a finely refined version of when you speak and you put expression into your voice.
That's interesting.
Now, if you hear somebody who speaks on an absolute monotone, you might say perhaps they're tone deaf. But if they don't, they're not tone deaf. There's some other cause that prevents them.
I find what you're saying enormously interesting, because I earn my living by broadcasting, and it's not fiscally precarious at all. I exist, and it happens.
Yes.
But the voice that earns me my living in the speaking mode is not a voice that would earn me tuppence if I were in a singing mode. And I'm not sure of how one excludes the other, and why, if you can talk, why can't you sing? I think you alluded to it there. It's a finely tuning of
it is. I mean, I was going to say, when you mentioned your grandson, that in effect it's very similar to learning a language. The baby learns to talk because it's going on around it, and because the mum talks to it and the dad talks to it. You don't teach it to talk in the way you're taught, for example, French when you go to school, but you learn it because it's happening around you. And if you're in a home, if a baby is in a home where there's a lot of music going around, then the language of music becomes part of the subconscious. And children who, I mean, in my day, we used to say if you'd learned lots of nursery rhymes as a child, the chances were you'd go to primary school and you'd sing them and you'd be musical. It was quite a strong chance that would happen. By the time I started teaching, nursery rhymes were becoming a bit less usual, and parents singing to their children seemed to be less usual than I remembered it. And consequently, children seemed to be less musical. And it's because they weren't absorbing as much.
There is a connectivity there, isn't there?
Yes, there
Between
is,
one to the other,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Other big things coming this year for your Sinfonia?
Well, we tend to work what you might call an artistic season. We start in September and finish in May, so there isn't anything big after these two concerts until
you wait until September, and then you're back
that's
again,
right.
heading towards Christmas and all of that.
The big thing is for me now to get next year's plans sort of sorted out and music written and arranged. And
but you're no longer at the point of taking in a new coterie of folk at the beginning of each year. You're working with established musicians who you've been working with for a while.
Yes, I mean the point was really that all these children that you were alluding to earlier who go through the music services and learn to play an instrument, if you play a brass instrument, trumpet, trombone, there are quite a number of brass bands you can join when you've left school. If you play a wind instrument like the clarinet or the flute, there are a few wind bands with wind and brass. There's very little for strings, and we started really because all of these young people who learn strings and go off and don't know what to do with the instrument afterwards had nowhere to play, or very few places to play. So I mean, it's quite hard to find them. So we're still in the process of looking for more people all the time. But certainly the people who come tend, by and large, to want to stay. Yeah.
One doesn't always associate an educational body or establishment with necessarily with great vision, but it does seem that there is a kind of vision within the southern area to have inculcated this desire to be musical and the perfection of it.
Well, yes. I mean, I'm just thinking back to the very beginnings. I came over here in '67, and there was a person in Armagh who was called a music advisor, Rex Blake. You might remember his name.
I remember Rex Blake, indeed.
And he was brought in.
Is Rex still
No,
with
he's passed away now.
Well, bless him.
But there was somebody in Armagh and there was somebody in County Antrim. They were brought in a sense, I understand, because the Leicestershire Youth Orchestra came over and did some concerts, and the local councillor said, "We want one of those. How do you get one?"
Yeah.
And they were told, "You get a music advisor," and he organised
And
it.
he organised it from there.
So, but it wasn't too long after, after the '70s, that there was a music advisor in County Down, and there was one in County Tyrone, and so on, and they became an established part of the system.
It's growing strong.
Yes, it has. I think the other thing was, you see, that when I came over here, it was the time when schools in England were turning to comprehensive education.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was a lot of argument about what comprehensive education was, what it meant. And one of the things that affected musicians was, why should children at school have to do music? All these people in school who went to music lessons every week and didn't want to, why should a music teacher have to put up with that? Why couldn't they just teach the people who were talented? But as a result of that, a lot of research has gone into the nature of musical ability, and it's recognised in a sense that everybody is potentially musical, and therefore if they have the potential, you ought to develop it.
Yeah, yeah.
But that was happening at a time when the music service in County Armagh that I was involved in was growing up, and therefore that kind of thinking influenced the way we thought about what we were doing and what we were trying to achieve. So in a way, the concept of everybody being musical and everybody should have a chance, if we could only provide it for everybody, which you never can because it's too expensive, was part of the system.
I didn't realise it, but all my delivering of Anne-Marie to the yellow bus on the Saturday morning, that it was part of a growing phenomenon throughout the UK.
Yes, that's right. Well, it had been going in the UK for quite a bit longer, but nevertheless, yes, you were right.
Roger, we'll remind the people again of the dates. The 10th of May in the Sean Hollywood Arts Centre.
That's right.
And it's, is there a name for the concert? What are we calling it?
Yes, it's called North and South in Harmony.
North and South in Harmony. And it'll be a wonderful evening's music. What time does it start at?
It starts at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock, which gives you an opportunity for an early tea at about 6:45 in one of the lovely restaurants around that part of Newry. You can do that, and then on to the Sean Hollywood Arts Centre for North and South in Harmony. And then for the people over in Monaghan, because we're broadcasting to Monaghan as well as Montreal at the moment, it'll be when? In Monaghan?
The following Saturday, May the 17th.
Saturday.
Yes.
And where will it be in Monaghan?
That's in the Garage Theatre.
In the Garage Theatre in Monaghan. We wish you well, Roger.
Thank you very much.
Roger. Roger Jarvis. Your name is synonymous with music in my house, as indeed was Mr. Blake's name in the house, and I can only say thank you. You're a good man. Thank you so much.
Thanks
Take
very
care.
much.
Music of a kind there, if you would, Andrew. A different kind of music.